Hello, everybody. It's good to talk with you or to you again. A couple weeks ago, I was given the idea to maybe read a story for the kids, the students, either at All Saints Academy or our homeschooling kids. And the more I thought about it, the whole idea of just sort of reading didn't quite make it for me. And so I was trying to figure out what could I do to share something with you in this time. And so I came up with the idea of giving my version sort of Joseph and his brothers, or Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason I did that was because, here we are, we're still sort of stuck in this season of the virus and stuff like that, and we're not supposed to go and see people and all that kind of stuff, and do we and don't we, and how come this is happening, how long is this going to take? And it's one thing after another. And so I did a little soul searching, and I figured that probably the story of Joseph would be about as good as a teaching, not just about somebody a long time ago, but what to do in the face of difficulties and problems over which we don't have a whole lot of control. And so I'm going to tell you the story about Jacob. We all know about him. He was the grandson of great Abraham, the one who had that great first covenant with God in preparing for the coming of the Messiah so many hundreds of years before Jesus. And so Jacob, a very prominent man, he was rich. He had a lot of land, and he had cattle and sheep, and he had a garden, and he had orchards and all sorts of things. And not only did he have a lot of land and all that, but he had a lot of kids. He had 12 sons and one daughter. Sometimes we don't hear about her, but her name was Dinah. And of course, I'm sure that because she was the only girl, she was the real princess of the house. Yeah, some of you know how that goes, Anyway, we won't get into that. But we don't want to forget that she's there. But then you got these 12 brothers, okay? And I got my list ready because I don't remember all of them all the time. And so here's just the cast of characters, okay? There's Gad, Asher, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Joseph, and Benjamin. Second from the last, second the youngest, was Joseph. And so I would imagine, like all brothers, they got along very well sometimes, and sometimes they didn't. And especially being that second youngest there's just something about that kid, just a little bit different, And his father, Jacob, really took a shining to him, and he just loved the kid so much, and that was beginning to bug the brothers. And I think those of you who got, lots of brothers and sisters, you know what that's all about, all right? So anyway, he's talented, he's smart, apparently he knows math, he knows all sorts of good stuff, probably even a little bit smarter than his other brothers, but we won't go there, And so anyway, he's likes to lord it over him sometimes. And it seems that God gave him this great gift of being able to sort of read dreams, okay? People get some sort of idea maybe in the middle of the night or whatever, and they can't figure out what it's all about. So Joseph starts, telling him, well, this is what that could mean, and all the rest, okay? And there were a couple of dreams that the brothers had, or maybe it was Joseph that had, about them and him. In one case, it had to do with the rows of corn in a field, And Joseph had one row of corn, and the other brothers had a row each. But in the dream, all of the brothers' rows of corn all bend or sort of bow towards Joseph's row of corn. And so he explained it to them, sort of like, well, that's me and that's you, and who knows what that means. But that did not endear him to those boys at all. And so they're kind of like, what are we going to do with this smart aleck? Smarty pants running around, thinking so smart, And then one day they're all working, some are in the orchard, some are out in the field, some are taking care of the sheep. And there's this Amazon Prime a truck comes up to the house, and they're looking, whoa, hey, we got a package. Somebody get something, let's go find out what that is. Or, they go running up to the house, and there's Jacob, and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Dad, what'd you get? Come on, what? Is something for us? Well, no. Where's Joseph? Come here, Joseph. Open the box. You're gonna love this. Okay, fine. And so, as we know, he gets this great big coat. Now, some say it was just a large coat. Some say it was a multicolored coat. Doesn't really matter. But it certainly got the other 11 brothers to turn a lot of different shades of green. That's for sure. Okay? And so he's going around wearing it. He probably goes downtown to the movies, all that kind of stuff, show it off, the coat. And the brothers say, this is it. Look, fellas, we can't handle this guy around here anymore. His head is much too big. Let's just get rid of him somehow. And of course, they thought they were going to kill him. That would not have been a good day. We know that. So finally, one of the other brothers, Reuben, says, well, let's not kill him. Let's just do something else with him, And then lo and behold, as they're contemplating what they're going to do with him and all that, there's this group that comes through. They're called Ishmaelites. I think it was Ishmaelites and Company. They were an outfit that did a lot of buying and selling and stuff like that. And they would see them in the area and stuff. And so one of the brothers went up and said, hey, listen, we got a deal for you. Listen, you buy things, you sell things. We would like to sell our brother. Do you suppose you could, would that work for you guys? And how much, how much is he worth? He's not much. He's kind of puny looking and kind of small, but, he'll grow up, And then so they come up with a deal. Okay, fine. All right. Okay, that's fine. Good. Okay. Hey, Joe, come here. All right. See these people, the Ishmaelites, they're your friends now. And they're going to take you on a wonderful trip. You're going to love this because they're going to Egypt. And I don't care whether you can speak Egyptian or not. That's where you're going, all right? And we'll settle everything with Dad. And they did. The Ishmaelites take Joseph, and off to Egypt they go. And the 11 brothers then go and talk to their dad and tell him that poor Joseph was killed and all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of leave those brothers and Jacob sort of alone, put him aside for a while. But you got to be wondering what was running through Joseph's mind. How come my brothers turned on me like this? I didn't hurt them, anything like that. It's like, not only did they try to do me harm at first, but then they sold me and I'm going away from home and I don't speak Egyptian and I don't know what to do. But he really just entrusts himself to God. That no matter what happens, he still believes in the God of the Hebrews, the one true God. Okay, and so he makes it to Egypt. And Ishmaelites and brothers, they went ahead and sold him to someone else by a guy by the name of Potiphar, who was a very, very rich man. We are told that he probably was the one who owned all the pyramids, probably even owned a good chunk of the Nile River, So this guy had a lot of loot, okay? And he takes a little bit of a delight in Joseph and all that kind of stuff. Say, kid, come here, kid, come on. You can work for me, all right? So that's what he does. And he works his way up because this is a smart guy. Remember, he knows math, all that kind of stuff, knows how to arrange things. He can organize stuff. And so it's all very well and good. But the trouble is, though, that there were some other guys who were working for Potiphar, too, and they didn't like Joseph's sort of rise to stardom, all right? And so they got to get even with him. So they plot to get rid of him. And ultimately, he gets thrown in jail. And again, what was Joseph thinking? He's finally making it up in the world, all that. And, he probably asked God from one time or another, Lord, how come you do us like you do? Come on, I didn't hurt anybody, but things do happen. As we know, then after this particular little episode then, he's in jail, but the Pharaoh's having dreams. Oh, now they got to find somebody who's been able to interpret dreams. And so they remember Joe, the guy's in the jail, in the prison down there. Joe, what's his name? I don't know. Yeah, go get him. All right, fine. So they get him and they present him to the Pharaoh and all that kind of stuff. He's the king. Yeah? And the king tells him the dreams, and Joseph says, well, listen, Your Majesty, your pharaohship, sir, the thing is, what I think is going on here is that you've seen some cows that were very healthy, and then you saw some cows that were very sickly. Well, it means that for 7 years, Egypt is going to have a plentiful amount of food and great crops and everything, but then there's going to be 7 years of disease and famine, and people are going to start starving if we don't start preserving the stuff, saving stuff for the future. So the Pharaoh likes the idea, and of course it's going to make the Pharaoh look good because he's number one. And he said, well, okay, fine. Tell you what, Joe, you're in charge, okay? But don't forget who gave you this job, all right? And so that's the interesting part about this, that even though it was terrible of what happened to Joseph by his brothers and at the hands of his fellow workers and stuff like that, and he got really dumped on. It was awful. And yet he never gave up on his God. And so when finally the Pharaoh is the one who raises him to a very high level to save the Egyptians, and actually a lot of people from the Mideast, because his own family up in the upper Palestine area were suffering from the famine as well. And so when they come down to Egypt, they need food, and he kind of plays them along a little bit. He pretends that he doesn't understand their language or anything. They don't recognize him. But ultimately, in the end, it was a tremendously great story, because he ended up not only saving the Egyptians and a lot of people in the Midwest, but also his own family, all because of other people's sinfulness. But basically what it is God always has a plan. And no matter what happens to us and our vision gets a little obscured and we don't know what's going on and how come this is happening, Lord, and it just doesn't seem fair or right or whatever, ultimately the Lord says, I still am on your side. I will take care of you. You may not understand now, but you will. And this is a great story of perseverance on the one hand, and ultimately God's victory for us. So we've got a couple more weeks to go, I hope, maybe not more than that, in our time of waiting and separation and all the rest. But let's just continue to be faithful to the Lord, to trust in him, and soon we'll be coming together as a worshiping community. And God bless you all, the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.